So what's the good and the bad, or the pros and cons, if you will, about Marriott Vacation Club? Well, I'm going to give you my thoughts right after this. Hello and welcome to Destination Timeshare. I'm Jeremy. Let's get into this video talking about the good and the bad, the pros and the cons of Marriott Vacation Club. We're going to specifically talk about their points product in this video, not talking about weeks. And if you're thinking about buying some points, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this video. So what is the good things about Marriott Vacation Club? And I just have a few here that I've listed myself. So the first one here is that when you buy in, outside of your annual maintenance fee and club fee, there's no other fees to actually use the system. A lot of timeshare resort systems, they have booking fees, they have guest certificate fees, cancellation fees, all of that kind of stuff. But when you book and use points, you own points, essentially there's no fees beyond your annual maintenance fee and club fees. So they don't really nickel and dime you, I guess you could say, like a lot of other timeshare brands do. Hilton has a lot of fees, Hyatt has a lot of fees, Wyndham has a lot of fees, kind of individual fees. You want to call up and make a reservation, hey, you got a fee. You want to add a guest certificate, you want to send maybe your friends, your family, there's a fee. Marriott Vacation Club points do not have these types of fees. Now next up is lots of flexibility. The kind of the main thing about Marriott Vacation Club points is simply the flexibility of the program. You can book anywhere from a one-night stay up to however many nights you really want. And you can stay on weekends, you can stay on the weekdays. There's really so much flexibility in the system when it comes to points. That's one of the great things about it. And the best thing is there's no extra fees. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of resorts also have, like you book a short stay, you're going to have an extra housekeeping fee too. So lots of flexibility in the system to be able to kind of tailor a vacation, a stay to your needs. You want to go on a weekend getaway? Hey, you can book that. Maybe you want to go midweek and save some points, you can book that. Maybe you want to take a 2-week vacation, you can do the same there as well. So next up here is lots of resorts in great locations. Great thing about Marriott Vacation Club, they have tons of resorts. I don't even know the number anymore, something like 60 plus, and we're not even counting the new Sheraton and Westin Vacation Club resorts that should be coming online sometime, hopefully in the near future. I did do a past video talking about that kind of integration. I'll put a link to it right up here. But yeah, lots of great resorts. You have them in Aruba, you have them in the US Virgin Islands, South Carolina, Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach, plenty of them in Florida, Hawaii, Palm Desert, California, the California coast, Boston. You have them in the cities even. You have some in San Diego, San Francisco, Miami. There's just so many great resorts. All of the resorts are really, really fantastic. I really can't complain about too many of the resorts at all. They all either meet or exceed our expectations. There's even a ton in Orlando, so if you want to go to Orlando, I'll put a link to all of the Orlando videos I have up here. But yeah, so many great resorts. That's really one of the big, great things about Marriott Vacation Club. Now, there's only 3 of those. I really couldn't think of too many others. I'm sure there's something I'm missing here. But let's jump into the bad. And the main one here is it's just an expensive, very expensive product to buy into. They have a luxury resort product and program. Right now the points are north of $15 per point, almost approaching $16 as of the time of recording this video. And it is just expensive to buy points. So if you want 1,000 points, which really doesn't get you much, it might get you a studio for a week, that's really going to cost you $15,000. 2,000 points is going to cost you $30,000. Now, you can probably get some other incentives, and they quite often are running discounts. So the more points you buy, the cheaper they get per point. But just keep in mind, very, very expensive program to buy into. Now, that doesn't mean other programs are necessarily cheaper, but at least compared to when they sold weeks, they seem to be much more expensive now. Next up is the points chart is very complex. In the old system, you had weeks. Each resort had a number of seasons, and it was pretty straightforward. You booked your week. Now, when they went to the point system, that is really when they got into a very complex and convoluted points chart. And I'm going to kind of put it up on the screen here, and you can see that you have a number of different times of the year broken out into different point requirements to book those times of the year at whatever resort you might be planning to go to. And you'll also notice a huge difference in low season versus very high season in a lot of properties. Trying to figure out that points chart, looking at, hey, what week do I want to go? What are my dates? Do my dates cross two of these different weeks? Trying to figure out the exact number of points for a reservation might be a little complex. So that's kind of the one main drawback of Marriott Vacation Club. The points chart, trying to figure out how many points it's going to cost you. And then also, of course, understanding how many points you need to buy is another issue there, just with the complexity of the points chart. Next up is high resale fees. So if you want to resell your points, you essentially have to find a buyer, and then that buyer has to pay additional fees, $3 per point right now, plus a $300, what they call owner education fee, in order to acquire those points. So essentially what that does is, if you can normally sell your points on an open market without those fees for, say, $6 a point, well, essentially a buyer's willing to pay $6 a point, but now because they have to pay $3 per point to Marriott as an initiation fee, they might only now be willing to pay you $3 per point. So essentially what this does is it drives down the value of resale points in the event that you want to sell your points to somebody else. So definitely a big drawback there. High fees when transferring points between seller and buyer. Next up, what we have here is that availability can actually be kind of challenging. Realize that Marriott Vacation Club points product is actually based on timeshare weeks, underlying weeks-based program. Now they do have their Marriott Vacation Club DC Trust, which is pretty much just a trust product, but the bulk of inventory out there is really still in individual deeded weeks owners. And in order for you as a points owner, if you own points, to book into a lot of resorts, you might be relying on weeks owners to actually elect club points on their week, and then that week becomes available in the Marriott Vacation Club Exchange Company for anybody with points to book. So a lot of places like Hawaii, maybe even Hilton Head Island in the summer, very high owner occupancy. A lot of owners own weeks. They may not actually be converting their weeks to points. Then those weeks are not available for points owners to book. So keep in mind, availability can be challenging, especially if you're wanting to book peak seasons, those premier resorts, sometimes a little more difficult than if you just owned an actual week at that resort. Well, definitely a lot more difficult than if you owned a week at the resort you're wanting to go to. So definitely something to keep in mind. Availability can be challenging. Next up, we have the website, the Marriott Vacation Club website, at least right now, and for as long as I can remember, it hasn't been overly intuitive. The search function is a little bit clunky. It's generally quite slow. They've actually been doing quite a bit of work on it right now. I don't know if they're trying to improve it or it's part of the integration with Vistana, but the website, it's not very intuitive. It's slow, it's clunky, and then when that happens, you also have long hold times if you're trying to call owner services. So keep in mind, if you buy Marriott Vacation Club points, you have to use their systems to make reservations. And if their systems aren't working, you're kind of out of luck, other than calling owner services and hoping that their system works too. So one of the challenges there, their website just isn't all that great. Lots of information on it, but just not up to the task a lot of times. Especially, and I should really mention this, I kind of forgot about this, especially at those peak inventory release times. So midnight, 9 a.m. inventory becomes available for reservations, and then everybody's flooding the system trying to make reservations on those inventory release days for those reservations that they want to get, and it brings the website to a screeching halt. So keep that in mind if you're considering buying Marriott Vacation Club points. Now the last one here, this is not too big of an issue, but it's still something to keep in mind, is if you own Marriott Vacation Club points and maybe you can't use your points one year, they're getting ready to expire, and the only option really left is to deposit those points into Interval International or use them for exchange in Interval International. Interval International being the exchange company that Marriott Vacation Club is affiliated with to perform timeshare exchanges with other timeshares around the world. Well, you can't exchange your points for another Marriott Vacation Club property through Interval International. Essentially, you always have to be using your club points within the Marriott Vacation Club ecosystem to be making your reservations. You can't go to Interval International and say, hey, it's actually cheaper to use my points in Interval International to book maybe Marriott's Grand Vista than it is to actually book it with points here through Marriott. It's just not allowed. Probably for good reason, obviously. But unlike weeks owners, they can freely exchange their week through Interval International to other Marriott Vacation Club resorts. So keep that in mind. Interval International, not a mechanism to book other Marriott Vacation Club resorts. So there you have it, the good and the bad, the pros and cons of Marriott Vacation Club points. Kind of curious, do you own points? What are your thoughts on my list? Do you have any other items that you would add to either one? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Really helps out these videos. And to see more videos about timeshare, check out the description box below. For another video about Marriott Vacation Club, not sure, we'll maybe put a resort tour up here, maybe some industry news about Marriott Vacation Club. Check out the link right up here. And YouTube, they think you'll like that one down there. Be sure to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on my picture right here. Hit that notification bell. And until next time, remember, the best destination is always a timeshare.